इसमें है एक्शन, कॉमेडी, ट्रेजेडी भी और सस्पेंस भी. The India-US trade tango is the great tinsel town potboiler of our times, and it couldn't get more filmy than this. As for those left stunned by Donald Trump's 25% tariff on India, plus the promise of plus penalties with the quotable quote for the ages, I don't care if India takes its dead economy down. All we can say is, until it's happily ever after, picture abhi bhi baki hai, mere dost. Let's start at the very beginning. Theirs was a bromance for the ages. Well, at least it seemed that way. With stadium fanfares from Texas to Ahmedabad, with a friendship that everybody thought would prove beneficial to both countries and their flourishing bilateral relations. It was no accident that Indian Prime Minister Modi was one of the first leaders to drop by in Washington after our Lord Trump's second coming. Promises were made for $500 billion worth of trade and for buying arms and reducing tariffs on bourbon whiskey. Both nations were finally on the home stretch of the bilateral trade agreement to be worked out by early fall, went the roadmap. But then came the big fall. And what a fall it's been. Trump went on his Liberation Day tantrum, and the world hasn't been the same ever again. Romance turned into rivalry as countries big and small, allies or not, all faced the ire of the emperor on Capitol Hill. The parties suddenly found themselves squaring off, with Trump calling out India for being a big abuser of tariffs. The April 2 Liberation Day tariff announcement, then a ceasefire, we mean the one in which he halted all punitive tariffs for 90 days, which later was extended to August 1st, which is tomorrow. Now, this is where India's tale goes into realms of suspense, and as it stands now, tragedy. While initial belief in the trade world was that India would be amongst the first to tie up a treaty, considering the increasingly strategic relationship both nations have been sharing in the recent past, it instead became a case of star-crossed, negotiators. Multiple rounds of talks saw both nations still finding the going tough. The US was adamant that India remove its notorious non-tariff barriers like quality control stipulations and the likes, while India showed no signs of loosening up on the politically sensitive areas of agriculture and dairy. Finally, Trump had enough. With some melodramatic social media rants sounding like a jilted lover, he pulled in the other, not man or woman, but let's call it the other country in the whole mix, Russia. Plus penalty is a price India will have to pay for dallying with Russia on the side by buying its oil. Though the details of this and to what extent and how this will be imposed is yet to be deciphered properly. He did link India's trade to Russia as one of the reasons the war in Ukraine was not ending. Very obviously, that Nobel Peace Prize isn't going to win itself, Well, anyway, for now, there is still the next round of talks to look forward to, even if it's only later in August. Does that mean India's exports to the US will be charged at least 25% duty starting Friday morning? Guess we are still in a very suspense-filled climax, and we'll still have to wait for this story's happy ending.